Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Long time no see. I know it's been a bit of a minute since I've actually released a video on the channel. I've been kind of on a bit of an unofficial kind of break from doing videos as I've been checking out some video games on stream. So if you've been a regular viewer of the Twitch stream, you know that I'm still streaming fairly regularly over there, but I've been taking a little bit of time off, and so there's more news about that towards the end of this video. I'll talk about that at the end. Let's just front load this video and get into this issue, which really has been this this patch and this console launch for Gloomhaven Digital, which is of course really the foundation of my channel. It's what kind of spurred me into creating content, and it's what has been, you know, the core thing on my channel for very long. Now we're doing Frosthaven stuff as well, of course, some more Haven-y type things, but initially what really got me into content creation was Gloomhaven Digital. So I think it's important to sort of see what's going on, because it's been a bit of a difficult couple of months, or the last month or so, for the devs over there, the new devs, Saber over there, and Twin Sails. So let's talk a little bit about the issues. Before we get started, a big thank you to my supporters over on Patreon and my supporters on Twitch who subscribe over there. A big thank you to Mike, Kira, Obi-Wan Kanzi, and Stephen P. Thank you so much, guys, for the legendary support over on Patreon. If you would like to support me and the channel and the work that I do, then please head over to patreon.com/managerequest, or of course go over to twitch.tv/managerequest, and you can use your Amazon Prime sub if you have it over there, or it's a normal sub over there. I appreciate any and all support, so thank you all, guys, so much. Now, Gloomhaven was an early access title, and it launched in July 2019 by my reckoning, and that was, I joined and started playing the game at that point. I think it was like the second day it came out is when I downloaded and started playing. The game was very, very bare bones at that point, really just a proof of concept that it could even work. There was, I think, about 3 or 4 characters in the game, very few amount of characters. There was no campaign mode. There was nothing to do with it. It was basically unrecognizable. Most of the cards weren't even in the game. You could only level up to, like, I think like a certain point, and there weren't any cards for the higher levels. It was basically a completely different game. It was a wire framework. It was, I would say, probably as early access really gets. So definitely was off to like a kind of a slow start, if you like. If you were somebody who was really excited, hoping to jump into a Gloomhaven experience straight away, the game was a million miles away from that when it first came out into early access. If we look though at what happened over the next couple of years, so in 2021 in October, that is when the actual 1.0 launch came out, and that included the campaign, the board game campaign as we know it. So, you know, the game was in early access for several years, and during that time the devs were flaming foul, and they were really responsive to the kind of the community feedback. They were constantly adding things all the time. They had the really big Guildmaster update, which happened prior to that, which kind of really kind of gave you a lot of stuff to actually do. And at that point, that was the point, I think, that the game really kind of became something special, to me at least, and was like really giving me that kind of fun Gloomhaven experience. It wasn't when they added the 1.0 campaign, but it was when the actual Guildmaster update came out. I think it was in like the previous summer or something, from memory. But anyway, Flaming Foul were always really receptive and were adding things at all times, and lots of little things were added over this period of time that perhaps weren't originally sort of in the spec for them to add, or weren't potentially something that they knew they had to do. As somebody who has played many board game ports over the years, we've got used to a little bit of a, I would like to say, a basic standard that we would receive for these types of games. They're not going to be multi-million pound generating games, most of them at least, and for the most part, a lot of people who do digital ports of board games generally tend to, yeah, do it belt and braces, and really just ensure that it allows people to play the game that they love online on a digital platform, and yeah, be able to enjoy the game. Not many bells and whistles, not many added extras and things that we might come to expect from a video game perspective, such as presentation, sound, and all of those kind of things that come into the visualization of something. So Gloomhaven Digital was definitely doing something a bit different. I felt like the devs really understood what people wanted from a digital port, and it wasn't a port. It was to be its own version of the game that would stand on its own 2 feet and would, you know, arguably become maybe the best way to play the game, even over the physical board game version. And to this day, I still feel like that's kind of the case. We've obviously got Gloomhaven 2nd edition coming out, which is going to make things a little bit different because it's going to be different scenarios, characters and stuff. So that's completely different. But in terms of the core Gloomhaven experience, I think that they really set out to achieve that. And I think they did. So when that 1.0 launch came out in October of 2021, the game was in a really, really good place, and Flaming Fowl, the developers, were really receptive and still patching and patching and patching. The game has always been a little bit rough around the edges at times and has always had some issues with, multiplayer has always been a little bit of a bugbear. It's always been the monkey on the shoulder for this game. There's been multiple issues over the years about desyncs and things not quite working correctly. Card interactions and things like that, and maybe not quite working exactly, but I think for the most part they were fixing all of the things that were ruining the game, and were fixing all of those things quite quickly and promptly, and were very receptive to it. So they were trying the best with the resources that they had, because I think we all kind of knew through the discussions with the devs, and they were very honest with the community about the fact that, they are really making this as a bit of a labor of love project. And, perhaps there isn't the millions and millions of pounds of funding behind it that people would expect. And certainly there was a lot of scope change and creep as the game evolved over time. There is definitely a point here at this game development where things changed a little bit, where, it started to become popular. And perhaps the idea of, we need to have multiplayer, we need to have cross-platform multiplayer, we need to have these added features, started to kind of creep in, whereas perhaps originally that was not going to be the intent. So I think it's worth saying that this game has evolved very, very much over the years. So anyway, we got the 1.0 launch, and then we also got the Jaws of the Lion DLC in 2022. That was in May 2022. In September 2022 is when we got the solo DLC. So that was basically when Flaming Fowl were kind of wrapping up their involvement with the project, because in October, November 2022, that's when Saber, or at least announced, that they were taking over full development of the project. Now, they were working on the console port prior to this, I believe, but this was when it was kind of announced that actually Flaming Fowl, who are the original developers, are handing the reins over to Saber for them to fully kind of work on the PC version as well, PC and Mac versions of the game as well. And then, of course, the thing in recent memory is September 18th of this year. It was when the consoles launched. So that's when Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation all had their versions. So this game has been, it's long in the tooth at this point in time. It has had 4 years of development, or 4 years of being kind of out, if you like. Even more than 4 years if you count the years before early access, which there would have been. So 4 years, though, it's been kind of out in the public sphere, if you like, as a purchasable product in some form. So what is going on at the moment? What is going on today? Well, if you go to the Steam page at the moment, you can see that recent reviews have now changed to mostly negative, with 65% now of people giving a negative review. That's over 120 recent reviews being negative. And what's the reason for this? Well, the console patch. So when the game went live on September 18th, there was a patch that kind of brought all of the versions pretty close together and made some changes to both the PC and Mac versions, as well as obviously bringing those kind of versions to the consoles. And that has introduced quite a few bugs across the PC version, which is really what's causing the issue here, because a lot of people were playing the PC and Mac versions of the game, enjoying themselves, happily. Not many issues, or at least perhaps the small issues that there were manageable, but now are unable to play to the same level. So these can kind of be broken down into different kind of versions of issues. We've got save file issues, so save files corrupting or not transferring properly, not being able to be opened. Some kind of like rules library errors, which was a pretty common one back in the day as well. You've got multiplayer issues, so desyncs and stuff. Again, this is an issue that has popped up over the development of this game multiple times. So for me as a veteran, yeah, I've heard that one before. Crashes, of course, graphical clashes and things like that happening to the game, just not running very smoothly. So it's kind of safe to say that it's not just localized to a few different issues. It's quite a breadth of issues that have been uncovered here, as well as these seem to be affecting multiple platforms. So although Obviously, we're talking about how Steam has gone mostly negative. I've also seen reports of Xbox players also having troubles. I myself have the Switch version of the game, and I would say this isn't going to be my official review of it, but the Switch version to me, it works. But when we're talking about very detailed scenarios where there's lots of moving parts, it really does start to chug. I don't necessarily feel like that's the game's fault. I feel like maybe that's just necessarily the Switch's fault. But yeah, it's certainly not the best way to play the game. But if you want to be able to play a game out and about, and you don't have a Steam Deck, you have a Switch, you haven't really got much choice. And I think I would rather take having Gloomhaven available on the Switch to be able to play on the go than not. So yeah, it's not perfect and the level of detail is pretty poor, but how much can you really blame that on Saber and Twin Sales, and how much of that really lands at Nintendo's door? There's some things there. But so you can definitely see, though, that these issues are affecting lots of different things. Crossplay not working properly as well. So this is a bit of a bad look, obviously, when people were able to experience a fully functioning game up to this point. So it's pretty safe to say that the established players are pretty pissed at this point in time with this patch. And there's been calls to roll back various things, but it seems to be that isn't possible, or that's the route that Saber and Twin Sales don't want to take. But yeah, it's also led to a public apology now that has been left in the apology.jpg meme, which has kind of become a bit of a feature if you are into video games. It's become a bit of a feature in 2023 of different publishers and developers posting JPEGs of apologies on their Twitter pages, or X pages now. But yeah, they have apologized for it, and in their defense, they have actually done quite a lot of hotfixes since this has actually happened. We've had 4 hotfixes already to try and fix some of these issues, and they do seem to be aware of it, and they do seem to be working on it, and they do seem to be communicating relatively well through their Discord and through their Twitter. So I don't think that this is necessarily the devs being malicious in any kind of way or anything like that. I think it's just a bit unfortunate. And I kind of wanted to give my take on the whole situation here as someone who has played close to 2,000 hours of the digital version. I haven't actually played too much digital recently because I've played so much. I'm kind of taking a bit of a break, but I will no doubt go back to playing it again. But I've been playing it on my Switch, and it's, as I say, it's not perfect, but it kind of works. It's fine. But yeah, my take essentially here is that the game is still great. The game is fantastic. Flaming Fowl did a great job of getting this game through to be what I think is one of the best board game kind of digitizations. So I don't even like to use the word port anymore because it feels disingenuous. It feels like, it feels like I'm doing a disservice to the work here because it's not a port. They've really done a lot of work here, Flaming Fowl did. And so, my hat's off to them. They did an amazing job and getting it to this point, but they did it on probably a pretty shoestring budget with not as many tools, and certainly the back end of the game, as somebody who has tried to mod a little bit and tried to play around with it, and I've spoken to some of the developers, it's not perfect. It's not perfect back there, in the code and stuff. It is not a completely clean game. A lot of the elements of the game were bolted on when the kind of need became apparent, and that became a thing. So I don't feel like you can be too harsh here in that sense, because the game has been rough at times. There's been bad patches in the past, but the game is now out of early access, and it has been in a relatively good playable state for over a year on PC. So, we're getting to a point here where, actually, you need to be, any kind of patches needs to be improving things, not regressing things. In the modern age where people can patch video games here and there, it's crazy to me that we now have a patch that's kind of worse than what the previous patch was, and you have no way of really going back. I mean, I don't know if there is a way for you to roll back patches, but either way, it's a very time-consuming task that you shouldn't be able to do, right? It's a very weird trend in digital gaming, whereas in any other kind of means, if we had like a physical game, if it was on a disc, then you just, we'll install the disc version and that's it. But when everything's always kept up to date and online, and you want to play with friends, so you need to keep yourselves updated, you're kind of stuck. And it's always the threat in the modern world of of people updating games and then them making it worse in some way. But again, I don't feel like this is a massively malicious thing. They're obviously trying to unify all of the different versions of the game so that they can play co-op together, so that the Switch version and the PC version can talk and communicate together. And they've unified them, and some of the changes have not been well received, but I don't want to stop anybody from enjoying what I think is still a fantastic game. Going through a rough patch, but it is a fantastic game. And I do think, like, if the intentions there is to make it widely available, we should be behind that, really, as a community. The more people who get to play Gloomhaven Digital, the better, in my opinion. And I'm glad that they released it on console. I think it's just a bit unfortunate that they maybe didn't go through those last kind of quality checks or tests and things to ensure that this didn't have a bad negative effect for those of us who are already playing the game on PC. So takeaway here from me, game is still really, really good. So although those reviews look bad on Steam, the game is still really, really good. And if you're playing solo, for the most part, you will probably be able to put these problems aside. It seems like a lot of the issues are more of a multiplayer problem is the big thing here. That's the big problem. There are obviously problems that will affect potentially solo, but I feel like you might be a little bit more kind of forgiving in those situations. It's always frustrating if you're trying to play multiplayer and you can't get it together. But yeah, that's my take. And I will say that since Saber have taken over the stewardship of this game, it's not off to a fantastic start here. Flaming Fowl were not blameless. You know, there were patches in the past where they released them and they did cause issues, but they were, for the most part, early access kind of launches and things like that. You know, this is when the game can go through these teething issues. You know, your game has been out now, so teething issues are not as acceptable at this point in time. But through early access, they are. So I do feel like Saber are off to a bit of a rocky start. I would like to see them steady the ship. They are saying the right things and they're communicating the right things to the community. So that's a really positive thing. It's a good start. A lot of companies would not do that. So I think that there's definitely something good to see there. I am slightly concerned what this might mean for future Gloomhaven products, because of course many of us here are sat waiting with bated breath to find out whether or not there'll be a Frosthaven Digital or there'll be something else from in the digital sphere. You know, really there is only Frosthaven. There isn't anything else at this point in time, but you know, there's scope there and the community certainly wants it, and the sales for Gloomhaven Digital were very strong. So it kind of goes without saying. Hopefully maybe they are working on a complete rework of the engine, which will make things a little bit easier. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they are doing, because Gloomhaven Digital was never built with the idea that this is going to become what it actually ended up becoming, or have multiple sequels or other games built upon its engine. So we could well see a complete departure from that. And this is very much them just trying to kind of patch this up to get it out the door on the consoles as it is. And I really do hope that they manage to fix the issues, because I said it's a fantastic game. And please don't let the recent negative reviews really strongly put you off. You know, maybe wait a little bit until some more patches come through until you're really, really happy, and hopefully those reviews will start to change. But yeah, I wanted to kind of put my 2 cents out there because it has become a big talking point in the community in the last month, and I haven't really said anything about it, and it's such a core part of my channel and things that I've done in the past that it kind of made sense for me to talk about it a little bit. But yeah, keep the faith, and hopefully the game that we all love will be back to its former glory very, very soon. So I will say though, Saber did remove my Easter egg of the Newt Newt loading screen, which is pretty unforgivable, to be honest. So definitely adjusting my rating of the game to 1 out of 10. But jokes aside, I think we should give Saber the benefit of the doubt here and just hope that things get resolved quickly. So hopefully that's answered some of that. But what have I been up to? A lot of people message me saying, you know, where have I been? I haven't done too many videos recently. Well, for the most part, I've been taking a bit of an unofficial kind of break from creating YouTube videos. It's a very time-consuming part of my life, and I enjoy doing it, but releasing the same types of videos over and over and over again was getting a little bit kind of tiring. And also, you know, it kind of lacks in the creative freedom that I enjoy with YouTube, being able to create new things, talk about stuff that interests me. And, you know, I feel the pressure to make videos that you guys really want to watch, and you guys really want to watch guide videos. You really want stuff about that. And yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing it, but very much I feel like I've been following the same format for quite some time, and I kind of felt a little bit burned out by that. So I kind of just unofficially took a step back over the last month to just kind of take stock of what I want to do with the channel, and you know, how I want to progress, and what I want to do. I've also started focusing a little bit more on my physical health, so I've been going to the gym quite regularly now, and you know, I'm trying to get myself back into sports fitness to be able to play sport next year. Some of you might know, but I play American football here in the UK. There's not many of us, but we do it. And I originally had a big ACL. I tore my ACL, so I've been recovering from that. I had surgery in January, and I've been slowly recovering. And I've kind of started getting back into my fitness again now, and I'm sort of recovering from that and trying to get myself fit for next season, which starts sort of like in springtime next year. So I'm trying to kind of get myself back to there. But so that also takes up quite a lot of time. You know, I have my day job, which is expanded a lot as well in recent months, which has also become quite stressful for me. So I've been doing a lot, and it just felt like the right kind of time. I've still been streaming, or trying to stream as much as I can, but I really want to think about how I'm going to continue to do content in the future. And Frosthaven is a game that I think certainly it's so big and vast, and I've been enjoying it, but I've also found myself burning out on it slightly, because I've been trying to hold myself to playing so many episodes a week, making the videos, kind of going through it. And as a solo player, managing the stream as well, all on my own, it can be quite stressful, and it can be a lot of work. It does feel tiring. So I'm just trying to keep myself mentally and physically well, if you like, at the moment. And yeah, just like thinking about those things a little bit more consciously, where sometimes I kind of go a little bit too hard on one thing. And yeah, I end up kind of like hyper focusing on something, and I do think that's really a lot, but it might not necessarily be the most healthy thing for me to do. So I'm just trying to kind of keep that in mind. But more videos will be coming soon. Frosthaven playthrough series is still ongoing. I've had a few people ask me if it's stopped. Nope, it's not stopped. There'll be a new episode up shortly, actually, which you guys will be able to see, as well as I'm going to start doing the streams again starting this coming week. So I'll be back on Twitch doing those. I want to be able to redo my guide format in some way for Frosthaven characters. It's very stressful for me to sit and do the very long guides, so I feel like I'm going to rubber band again. I went from a period of time with my very early videos saying I would never do a long video, to then doing really, really long videos. And now I think I'm going to rubber band back to trying to do shorter videos again. I did do like, I tried to do like a series, which is like a character in 10 minutes for Gloomhaven, which I quite enjoyed the concept of trying to do that. It was like a challenge for myself. So I'm going to try and do some things around that to try and make it good. Also, I've got some ideas that I will need some help with. Ideally, some web developer help. So if you are somebody who is, you know, a web developer, good at creating websites and things like that, I'm not. That's not a strength that I have. But if you really love Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, and you are interested and have those skills, and maybe interested in a bit of a like a collaboration project, please just like either comment down below, or come to the Discord and send me a message, or go to Twitter and send me a message to try and like DM me somewhere. It'd be good to chat with you. I've got a couple of ideas for some things. I'm not going to say anything about it right now, particularly, but I've got some ideas that would be cool if I can find someone who can also help kind of bring that to life as a bit of like a fun project. So if you have someone like that, if you are someone like that, please you know, get in touch with me. That would be really, really cool. As well as, yeah, I want to rework how I do my guides and things like that. So I might even be like, I'm thinking about remodeling my room in some way to try and improve certain things, and just potentially do a complete rebrand on the channel as well in terms of graphics and stuff like that, because I've been using the same graphics for many years now. So pretty much 3 years, I think, maybe even 4 years. I've been streaming for 4 years and videos for 4 years. And so, yeah, probably about nearly 4 years now. So yeah, I think it's about time for a refresh or something. So I need to think about that as well. But anyway, that's where I've been. So I am well. I hope you're all doing really well. And thank you all so much for kind of sticking with me and through the channel and watching the videos. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I will be back live again soon. And yeah, that's where I am. So yeah, more videos and things to come. But I'm still here. I'm still alive, and I'm doing well. So I hope you all are too. All right. Well, again, as always, thank you all so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I will catch you next time. Bye.
I think still, yeah.
Oh,
Scout
the
wins.
that's the blessing from Cap.
Yeah.
That's the blessing
So,
from.
Isaac, at this point, can we get your approval to add an additional attack modifier deck for allies in the digital version?